In the music business, talent is never the rarest thing. Courage is. Every generation has artists who sell millions, tour the world, and still walk away with nothing that truly belongs to them. Contracts are signed young. Promises are made fast. And before anyone understands the cost, ownership is already gone. In the early 1990s, one voice stood at that crossroads. He had radio hits. He had fans who memorized every word. He had labels offering more money than most people from his neighborhood would ever see. And he said no? Not because he lacked ambition, but because he wanted control. Over his sound. Over his message. Over his life. That decision would quietly change everything. This is not just the story of a successful R&B group. It is the story of Dino, the voice behind H-Town, and the moment when saying no became more dangerous than failure. Because in an industry built on ownership, refusing to be owned often comes with consequences no one warns you about. What happens when an artist chooses integrity over comfort? And how high is the price of that choice? Long before contracts, before radio spins, before anyone argued over ownership, survival came first. Dino was born Kevin Conner in Houston, Texas, a city full of sound, ambition, and danger. He and his twin brother Solomon grew up in neighborhoods where music and violence often shared the same streets. One promised escape. The other waited patiently for mistakes. Their childhood was not shaped by industry dreams. It was shaped by urgency. Their mother understood something important early on. Talent alone would not protect her sons. The streets were already influencing how they spoke, how they moved, how they saw the world. So she made a hard decision and sent them to live with their grandmother. It was not comfort she offered. It was distance. Distance from temptation. Distance from loss. Inside that house, music was not polished. It was practiced. Uncles rehearsed constantly, preparing to open for touring funk bands. Dino watched closely, absorbing more than technique. He learned discipline. Timing. How to listen before stepping in. Music was no longer entertainment. It was structure. By the time Dino and Shazam began formal vocal training, it was clear this was not a hobby. School bands became classrooms. Instruments became tools. Influences like Michael Jackson and Marvin Gaye taught them emotion. Prince taught them control. Stevie Wonder taught them freedom. But freedom was always limited. Their first group, the Gents, signed a deal too early. They were barely teenagers when they released their first album. It failed quietly. No second chances. No development. Just a lesson learned the hard way. In the music business, age does not protect you. It exposes you. That failure mattered. It taught Dino that attention without leverage leads nowhere. It taught him that being heard is not the same as being respected. When producer Bishop, Stick, Burrell entered their lives, something shifted. Stick did not just hear potential. He heard leadership. He insisted Dino step forward as lead singer. It was not a popularity decision. It was a responsibility decision. Around this time, a song began circulating. No chorus yet. No radio plan. Just feeling. The lyrics that would become "Knockin' de Boots" were written young, but they were not naive. They spoke with certainty. With ownership. Even then, Dino sang like someone claiming space. Opportunity arrived through Luke Skywalker, but Dino did not arrive as a beggar. He arrived with awareness. He understood what this moment could become. He also understood how easily it could be taken away. When the group was renamed H-Town, it was more than branding. It was identity. City over company. Roots over image. From the very beginning, Dino was not trying to belong to the industry. He was trying to survive it without losing himself. And that difference would define everything that followed. When success finally arrived, it did not ask permission. It took over everything. In early 1993, H-Town stepped into the national spotlight with a sound that felt intimate and unapologetically real. "Knockin' de Boots" was not polished for crossover appeal. It was slow, direct, and confident in its purpose. Radio embraced it immediately. Within weeks, it sat at the top of the R&B charts and crossed into the pop mainstream. For audiences, it felt effortless. For Dino, it was controlled intensity. Dino did not sing loudly. He sang with restraint. Every note felt intentional, as if he understood that saying less could mean more. His voice carried authority without arrogance, vulnerability without weakness. It connected with listeners who were growing older, settling into relationships, and searching for music that reflected maturity rather than fantasy. The debut album Fever for the Flavor followed and confirmed what the single had promised. Platinum sales, sold-out venues, national tours. Hometown suddenly found themselves sharing stages with the biggest acts of the era. Night after night, thousands responded to Dino's voice with something close to reverence. But success came with expectations. The industry did not hear growth. It heard opportunity. Labels saw Hometown as a formula that could be repeated endlessly. Sexuality sold. Intimacy sold. The more personal the lyrics became, the more pressure followed to push them further. Dino noticed the shift immediately. Meetings focused less on music and more on image. Less on longevity and more on what could be exploited next. Financial reality soon exposed the imbalance. Despite platinum records, the group discovered how little control they had over their earnings. Royalties arrived smaller than expected. Touring expenses grew heavier. Fame looked impressive, but stability remained distant. Dino began to understand that success without ownership is another form of dependency. Still, the momentum continued. Collaborations followed, including work connected to the Above the Rim soundtrack. Their presence expanded beyond radio into film and cultural influence. Awards recognized their rise. Fans treated them as symbols of desire and authenticity. Yet beneath the applause, Dino was already pulling back. He listened more than he spoke. He questioned contracts. He asked who benefited most from their labor. While others celebrated the moment, Dino saw the pattern forming. The same pattern that had consumed artists before him. Short peaks. Long recoveries. Forgotten names once the sound changed. He did not reject success. He rejected surrender. That refusal marked the beginning of tension that would later define the group's future. At their highest point, Dino understood something critical. The industry applauds loudly when you perform, but it rarely stands beside you when you ask for control. And from that realization, the cost of saying no became impossible to avoid. Saying no did not end Dino's career overnight. It ended something more subtle first. Trust. After the early success, Hometown entered a phase where every creative decision was questioned. Labels wanted repetition, not reflection. They wanted the same themes, the same formulas, the same level of provocation that had already proven profitable. Dino wanted progression. He wanted songs that spoke to where he was becoming, not where the market wanted to freeze him. The second album was a warning sign. Beggin' After Dark performed well and went gold, but the relationship between the group and the label was already fractured. Promotion felt half-hearted. Communication became strained. Dino noticed how quickly enthusiasm faded once compliance disappeared. The message was clear, even if it was never spoken directly. When the group appeared publicly in chains to protest their contract, the moment became symbolic. It drew attention, but it also confirmed their position as difficult artists in an industry that rewards silence more than honesty. Dino understood the risk. He accepted it anyway. Freedom came next, but it was expensive. After leaving their original label, opportunities flooded in. New deals. Bigger checks. Promises of control. Relativity Records offered money that would have changed everything financially. Dino agreed, believing independence would finally allow the group to grow on their own terms. For a moment it worked. Their third album, Ladies Edition, Woman's World, reflected maturity. The music addressed relationships, responsibility, and respect. It was still intimate, but intentional. The single, They Like It Slow, resonated deeply with fans and proved evolution did not mean abandonment. The album went gold. But evolution does not always equal acceptance. Behind the scenes, pressure returned. Executives wanted more explicit content, more shock, more control. They offered millions to steer the group back into a mold Dino no longer fit. This time, he did not negotiate. He refused. That refusal changed everything. Support vanished quietly. Marketing slowed. Radio interest cooled. Shows paid less. Industry relationships went silent. Dino was not attacked publicly. He was ignored. In the music business, silence is often the harshest punishment. Inside the group, tension grew. Shazam and GI understood the financial reality. Dino understood the personal cost. There was no easy compromise. Without Dino, there was no hometown. Without compromise, there was no momentum. Eventually, the group fractured. What followed for Dino was isolation. Depression settled in. He withdrew from friends, from family, from the world. Bills piled up. Bankruptcy followed. Nights passed without sleep. Lights stayed off. The voice that once commanded rooms now lived mostly in his own head. And still, he did not retreat from his choice. Because for Dino, control over his soul mattered more than comfort. Even when it cost him everything. And just as the possibility of reunion and redemption appeared, life delivered its final and most unforgiving blow. In America, success is often celebrated loudly. Resistance is handled quietly. When Dino began pulling away from industry expectations, there was no public backlash. No scandal. No dramatic headlines. Instead, there was distance. Invitations stopped coming. Phone calls went unanswered. Opportunities slowed without explanation. This is how the music business protects itself. For decades, the industry has rewarded artists who adapt quickly and disappear just as easily. Those who question contracts or demand control are rarely confronted openly. They are simply replaced. New voices arrive. New sounds trend. The cycle continues. From the outside, many assumed Hometown had simply lost momentum. That their sound no longer fit the times. What most did not see was the deliberate withdrawal of support that often follows artistic resistance. Dino was not rejected for lack of talent. He was sidelined for insisting on ownership. Among fans, the reaction was different. Listeners who had grown with Hometown felt confusion first, then concern. Dino's voice had matured alongside them. His later music reflected relationships, accountability, and emotional depth. For many, that evolution felt necessary. It felt honest. But honesty does not always align with commercial priorities. Within the black music community, Dino's story echoed familiar themes. Young artists signed early. Contracts written without long-term protection. Success measured in charts rather than sustainability. When artists push back, they are labeled difficult instead of principled. Internationally, Hometown remained respected as part of a defining era in American R&B. Dino's vocal style continued to influence singers who valued restraint over excess. Musicians understood what the industry rarely acknowledged. Saying no requires more courage than saying yes. Only after Dino's death did broader conversations begin to surface. Discussions about mental health. About fair compensation. About artistic autonomy. His story was referenced quietly in interviews and private conversations, not as a headline, but as a warning. America often honors artists after they are gone. Not because it failed to recognize their talent, but because it failed to listen when they spoke. Dino spoke clearly. The industry simply chose silence in response. On January 28, 2003, there was no farewell tour. No warning. Just silence. A car accident ended the life of Dino at 28 years old, along with his pregnant girlfriend. News reports focused on the tragedy of the moment. What they could not capture was the weight of the years leading up to it. The exhaustion. The disappointment. The quiet resolve of a man who chose integrity over comfort. Dino did not disappear because he lacked talent. He stepped away because he refused to be controlled. That distinction matters. In an industry built on compliance, Dino's resistance was costly. It cost him momentum. It cost him stability. It cost him peace. But it preserved something few artists manage to keep. His voice remained his own. His message remained honest. His music never became a parody of itself. After his passing, H-Town tried to carry forward. Albums were released with little support. The industry moved on, as it always does. But among listeners, Dino never vanished. His songs stayed present in quiet moments, in long drives, in memories tied to love and reflection. Years later, recognition finally arrived with Hall of Fame honors. It was deserved but delayed. A reminder of how often the industry acknowledges artists only when their voices can no longer challenge it. Dino's legacy is not about hits alone. It is about boundaries. He showed that saying no has consequences. But so does saying yes to everything. For those who remember his music, his story offers something deeper than nostalgia. It offers clarity. Talent must be protected. Artists must be educated. And integrity, while expensive, is never worthless. If Dino's voice was part of your life, share that memory. If his story resonates, speak on it. And if you believe artists deserve more than applause, stay connected. Some voices are not meant to last forever. They are meant to tell the truth while they are here.